We're live.
Good
Welcome to
morning.
Savage. Yeah, welcome to Savage Coverage. I'm Dave Claxton, along with Bracken Crocker and the Shoe Wall of Fame. So I'm subbing in for Matt today. Matt is off doing something else. We're waiting for Lee to clock in. So Bracken, might as well quickly go through who you think, if you've gone through the list, and we have some people coming on now, gone through the list of names, who pops out at you today as possible contenders.
Well, we have what I don't know. I would call them the first couple of Savage Race, Ken Crigliano and Rachel Crigliano. I think that they are the longest running podium married couple in the sport. As far as I can,
it's probably a small group.
It is, and it's a small, unique group.
I'm in that group. I'm just not very good.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. My wife has never made a Savage podium, and so Ken and Rachel stand above us on the Savage hierarchy. Anyway, I think that family leads the charge in terms of notoriety. But Chris Verglowski has kind of had her coming out party. Not kind of. She has absolutely had her coming out party this year. She hasn't really been touched lately by any of the women in these races. The last time she was challenged was at OCR World Championships, and then she showed up next to a Savage after that and just cleaned house. So that's where I begin.
I have become an absolute Chris Verglowski fanboy this year. Just everything she has done, and every time you turn around, oh, there she is, there she is, there she is. She is just a force, and it's not just showing up everywhere. She contends at everything.
Everything. I spent some time watching some long event she did. And then yesterday I was on the treadmill and needed something to fill like the last 20 minutes. My video of watching UTMB ran short, and I threw on DECA, and there was Chris Verglowski in the background. So she went from like 100K or 100 miler to doing a 30-minute event with no sky in sight. It was just like everything she can do. She's one of the favorites. It's outrageous. I don't know if we've seen this outside of the true titans in the sport. Like you talk about Albin, Atkins, Webster, Boone, Hunter, I would say, people who are in the mix who have had world podiums at the longest distance and the short. She's kind of approaching that conversation of that range. Killian.
Yeah, she needs a couple of big wins, and then she'll be right on the door there. Okay, so we've got a couple of our cameras going here.
Now, I want to be very clear. I wasn't saying she is one of the Hall of Famers right now, but she is doing things this year that really only the Hall of Famers have shown the ability to be able to do. So if her career trajectory even just plateaus and starts holding, she now gets to be in that mix after a few years of this.
Now, there's no need to backtrack, Bracken. You actually said she's one of the best of all time. I mean, it was straight out there. It's on video. There's no getting out of it.
I'm already creating her bust for Ken.
Carving her into Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
So that's for the women. Those are a couple of good ones.
We also have Rachel Waters, Ashley Samples.
Rachel Waters, I always find she's one of those ones that, and I'm again a big fan of Rachel, you can't sleep on her. If you give her the opportunity, she might not have that foot speed that some of these other women have, but if you give her a chance, she is going to be able to snatch an opportunity.
And that really is the theme of the day, right? Taking the opportunity or snatching the opportunity. There are a guy and a man and a woman who are on paper head and shoulders above the rest of the field. And then it is everyone else vying for that elusive podium spot. And we talked a little bit off mic that each year there's a few races where people look and say, this is the Wild West. Wide open. This is your chance to stamp your mark on a race. And I think this one is it. Of all the Savage races we've watched, this one might be the most wide open for second and third spot. And so she is right there. So someone leaves the door open, she's going to bust through it. On the guy's side, is this Benny Gifford's day? Matt Willis? It's very wide open, and we're going to see somebody capitalize, and then a couple people go home and think, this was my shot in 2021, and I missed it.
And a day like today, where it appears there's two rigs on the map, and that could cause chaos and could really open the door.
And look at the background. This is not going to be a totally dry race.
No, it definitely looks a little muggy. Let's see if we can talk with our camera people. Jessica, can you hear us okay?
Hi, yeah.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. What's it like down there? How's the weather? It looks a little damp.
It's pretty damp and muggy. It's pretty foggy. The you can't really see too much in front of your hands here, but it'll make for an exciting race. Everything's damp. I expect that the rig and all the handholds are going to be very slippery. We love a good wet race here in Florida.
You have some people licking their chops hearing that, and some other people cowering in the corner, because there is
Yeah.
nothing harder than the savage obstacles coated in dew and wetness.
Now,
Looks like we have
how's our
we
rig
have
set up, Jessica?
Oh, it looks challenging, but we love challenges here at Savage Race. It is going to be a battle for sure. I'm really excited to see all the pros battle it out over there at the rig. We have two pretty hard rigs, and then we even have a new research and development obstacle, which we are calling the wrecking wall, which is essentially the barn doors, and you have to swing to the barn doors, climb up it and over it, and then swing to the finish and hit the bell.
Oh,
But
I
the
love
pros,
R&D.
yeah, the pros actually will not be going through this obstacle. They can come back later and try it if they'd like to, but this is going to be a little bit of fun for our open week.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed. I think I should like to see
I
them go through
know.
it.
Do we have any crazy surprises on course, like a 2-mile log carry to start off or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, joking. There are some logs over there. It looks like we got some people looking at them, but nothing crazy like that. No log carries. Or we do have a log carry, but not to start.
Sorry about that. So what are we looking at for a start time? Are we on schedule today? Are we?
Yes, yep. We have our MC over at the festival area. He is debriefing all the course on any or all the pros on any updated rules. You can always find our rules online for the most updated rules. And yep, Jeff Meeks is just going over everything with the pros, and they will be over here in a few minutes.
And is there anything different from a normal race that stands out? Anything unusual that's course specific that might cause issue?
I don't believe so. I think it's going to be a great race.
Awesome. All right. So Bracken, that was the women. You talked about the women. What about the men?
Look
here?
at this. Hold up. Look at bottom left of the screen here. Who do we have walking into frame?
Oh, is that
Sean Roberts.
Just strolled in out of nowhere.
Excellent. And this is what we love to see. Like, it's nice to see the names on paper, but we always hope someone's gonna Yatsko in out of the woods and show up right at the start line. And here we do. Here we have it right here. Sean Roberts, who is maybe the modern day Yatsko, throwing his hat in the ring and totally shaking up the race.
Yeah, maybe that's not obviously now. So if you put him and Ken Crigliano, does Sean Roberts has his? I know he has the grip strength, but is his obstacle ability enough to get through these? No, I know he's going to get through them, but does that make him the top contender?
If this were a normal dry day, I think he's totally proven that he is completely savage proficient. The last thing for me to see from him outside of an altitude or big mountain race is now wet obstacles. So today he proves it to us. On paper, he wins by 2 minutes. He's that fast and he's that good. But we get to find out today, how is his wet rig skill?
I'm impressed that he walked in front of the camera that many times.
He doesn't know it's there. This is probably a game. This is a game cam we have set up.
Yeah, he's super fast. Like watching him run is just incredible. The speed and just the consistency to him and the train. What I've noticed about him just from watching from afar is his ability to adapt to different terrain. Seems to be much better than I would have expected from him.
Yeah, he learns on the fly so well, which is one of those intangibles. You can't teach it, really. It's just you have it or you don't. And that's why, despite some of his hiccups in the sport, I still think he's made for it, because he shows every intangible and proclivity towards doing things that this sport requires. So I think he'll adapt to this. He'll get to the first rig, And if he plays the first rig slow and smart, he'll learn on that first rig what these grips feel like. And then I think he'll be fine for the rest. Or he's going to charge ahead, say I'm the best here, and maybe make a mistake and slip. But either way, he's going to learn by the end of the race.
Now, this, I'm being Florida, is likely going to be have you raced at this venue before?
What exact venue do we have here? Because they've had, is this the one they've been at forever, or is this the different one?
I believe so. Jessica, can you hear us? What's the venue? This venue at? If she can hear us, maybe she can't.
Okay, wait. See.
There you go, Jessica. What venue is this? Oh, hold on.
Hello.
Hey, there's our man Lee. How are you doing?
Excellent.
Good. We were just talking, Lee. What venue is this?
Venue is this? Is our Florida venue, and I'll tell you what, this is our home base. This is where we started. This is where and since our first race year, this is where we have done our first and last event of each year. So it's kind of an end cap for each season.
So this is the
it's definitely our
Equestrian
best
Center?
one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys have a minute?
Sorry, what's that, Lee?
Hey, I have a course outline if you're interested.
Yes, absolutely.
Very interested.
Okay, so overall, there's little elevation change, but the first half of the course is going to be all about swamp life. There's going to be a couple different wading through the waters. There's going to be some marshy land. And then moving into the second half, there'll be a couple dunks that'll wash most of the mud off. And then for the second half, it'll be a lot of flat, open running with some more of the technical obstacles. So if you can push through the mud early, and your technicality will shine later, then that'll prove best for you as you go through. A lot of this is grass. There is some sandy road. And that's about it. Should be a good time.
Thank you very much for that rundown. This is a beautiful venue. This was the first Savage I ever ran. I slept next to Garfield in the staff housing. It was just like the ultimate Savage experience there, and I love it.
That's awesome. It's a good time. Cool. All right, well, I'll see you guys out there.
Catch you out there. Thanks, Lee.
Dave, I rolled in late to this one. Garfield housed me on course. It was just like I was indoctrinated to Savage overnight. And it's a beautiful venue. It's Florida, but it feels like it could be Georgia. It feels like it could, there's some space here. Nothing's cramped. It's wide open. And there isn't a lot of elevation, but there are enough little tiny hills that they'll use pretty well that it doesn't feel like a typical pancake flat, almost like boring terrain of Florida. This has a little bit of life to it.
And this, again, plays to somebody like Sean Roberts. I think he's going to go out like a bullet.
Yeah, that swamp section's intriguing because it rewards running after you're done with it. If you're a good overall running athlete, you get through the swamp and now you get to work while everyone's tired from the swamp. But if you're kind of a one-dimensional runner, no matter how fast you are, if you get blown out going through the swamp, trying to pick your legs up over and over, you can't get back to your high level of running afterwards. So that'll be interesting to see him go through that and then have to run flat. The second half of the course should be all Sean, but the first half is going to dictate how much of Sean we get to see.
And that's it looks like they're getting ready to load into the corral here. And that's the deal. Like Florida, we all think, simple. These boys have logs. We were lied to.
Listen, they weren't going to stack up a whole pallet of logs if they weren't going to use them at the line.
How long do you think they got to carry those for?
Well, if I were them, I wouldn't be carrying them yet.
I like when they throw these in. It just makes things a little bit different. But at the same time, you see a few good concussions going here, getting clocked in the head.
Yeah, I think I'd start with sandbags. No, I like it. And Sean's done this.
Yeah.
If you recall, there was that race where they had that almost mile and a half start of a sandbag or of this log. And we never really saw him again. He never got into it.
There's your boy, Benny Gifford.
Doing exactly what Benny Gifford does. But Sean's felt this now. He's done it. He knows what to expect. I'm sure he worked on it a bit. And you can see everyone smiling who maybe isn't the top cream of the crop runner. They're smiling right now because this brings the field together at the start of a race.
And so any other faces there that you see that might be contenders?
Is that Alvaro there?
I think it might be.
If so, Sean's got a runner to go with him because Alvaro is as fast as anyone.
What's that? Can we talk
I have it. I was hiking the Appalachian Trail. Yeah.
I'm going back out there doing the North Carolina section for New Year's.
I think there's just too much noise for them to hear me.
Yeah, with something to dance against and music on, we probably don't want Benny on camera anyway.
Well, at least not if we start up, unless we up the charge.
We see Matt Willis in the background there. I think that is Alvaro, but we'll need one of our faithful listeners to tune in and let us know if I'm incorrect there.
Well, we've got...
The fact that his 10 packs out means that I think it is him.
Air Force can bring home that axe. Let's see, they gotta be.
Who's that? Who is that?
Hi, who this? YouTube. Or it's the ORM one, yeah.
Tell me you got Rack and Talker.
1 minute, Maddie. What? Can you do your thing? Maybe 90 seconds. All right, how we feeling, Savages? Hey, I know this is brother, so I'm making this real snappy. How's everybody feeling? I say Savage, you say Ray Savage. Savage, Ray, Savage, Ray. Something on the down, go, oh! Lift them up, oh! All right, you guys ready? You just say, all right, we have 30 seconds.
Hey, how are you? I know. Watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, Savage, here we go.
Hi.
It is that time. Let's go. Count it down with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get going.
Hey, girl.
Welcome back to reality.
Thank you. Oh.
And they're off and running, bud.
Now, we should never look too far into appearances, but Air Force Ken looks good. He had a slow start to his season. He wasn't fully healthy. He wasn't getting a ton of great training in, but he just has a look to his face that he's just more fit than he was originally. And that bodes well. I mean, he's been racing well, but this might be the fittest Ken's been this year, and that'll be exciting to watch.
Now, do you put anything into, like you say he passes the eye test there, do you put anything to the antics and the demeanor of the different competitors on the start line? I mean, we see Benny jumping up and down, riding the pony, and then you see Sean Roberts stoic and controlled. Is that just individual personality, or do you put something into that as, preparation and ready?
Yes and no. I think that I like to see people play to their personality. When they do what they normally do, I feel like they're ready. And when you see a Benny, if he were to show up nervous, I'd be worried for him. And if Sean was to be jumping all around, I'd probably be nervous for him. As long as they're sticking to their tried and true approach to racing, then I don't read too far into it. But if this is Alvaro, I'm going to keep calling him Alvaro.
It does look like him out front.
There
goes Alvaro
going to the front and trying to set the pace really, really quick. I mean, if he always gets out fast, right? This is him, his MO. We've seen it. I like that Sean's taking the inside route here. He's running the curved tangent, so to speak. I like that. But Alvaro he has 30, 40 meters on the field and still gapping.
And I mean, this is the first obstacle they're going to come up to they're going to come up to the barn doors and then sawhorses, lumberjack lane. So I imagine they'll probably have that piece of wood with them till they hit lumberjack lane.
I would guess so.
I'm going to go split screen here so that we can see that we don't want to miss the start of the women's. They all seem to be lining up.
Savages! Get those logs up. Are you ready? Yeah. Count it down with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dave, this isn't the smoothest of grass. Because this is a horse racing track, essentially. There's the grandstand on our left right now. There's infield to the right, and this track is at least a half mile around, if not a full mile or more. But because horses race over it, it's pretty pockmarked in there. So it looks to be a great smooth grass, but it's also not like your typical golf course or cross country course. There is some bit of instability there.
And as you predicted, it does look like Chris Verglowski out in front.
I mean, she has to be, right? Unless we have some of those top in the world names show up. She hasn't really shown to be human on these Savage races.
And she has Atkins-like recovery, it would appear, as well.
Yeah, if you could pick one skill as an endurance athlete, it would be to handle as much training and racing as you want and regenerate immediately. And I'm sure that's over, that's hyperbole for her, but she is superhuman in her ability to race and race and race and race. But is this Rachel up with her pushing the pace?
That looks like Crigliano, yeah.
And she looks more comfortable at the log right now, to be honest.
Yeah, and she's taking the inside line.
Yeah. Chris makes a shoulder switch and immediately back up with her. But she's adjusting. These are the kind of things that they kind of need to be set it and forget it. It's okay to adjust from time to time, but you can see she's fidgeting, she's fidgeting, she's fidgeting. Once you move it once, you'll never get it comfortable again.
We'll go to the men here. See, again, Alvaro heading over the hurdles.
See how he quickly changed technique in between hurdle 1 and hurdle 2?
Yeah.
And he has such a strong core. Just visually looking at him, you can tell this guy does not skip core ever. And for something like this, where you really want to run with the weight on your shoulders, it's important not to have to sway and bend side to side or forward with that weight. And he is totally rock steady underneath it, which allows his lower body just to run freely.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to affect his running form very much at all. Now, that is not the heaviest weight in the world, but carrying anything and just not being able to swing your arm normally should throw you off.
Yeah, he has a slight lean in the opposite direction of the log, which is to be expected, but he's really stable underneath it. And so his leg action's pretty normal there. And as a result, he's able to actually use his running fitness, where a lot of the heavy carries, or if you have a weak core, you can't use your true running fitness. This is a long carry.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be definitely. So we look like we got Alvaro, and then is that Sean Roberts?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure who's that behind him.
I don't know who that one is. Although Dave, I should know this. I've seen him race.
All right, let's go back to the women, and it seems like Chris and Rachel are separating themselves. And again, they are the class of the field for running. This is totally expected, would it not be?
Yeah, it would be. And Rachel, I like what she's doing. When you have someone that's really good and you are the KG veteran, which is what Rachel is, and she's also very good, you have to shorten the race. You have to stay with her. If this were just flat running, Chris would probably be gone. But the fact that she has the ability to keep the race a little tighter and really shorten the amount of time she has to race her, it's a smart move to do.
Now, they just bypassed barn doors there. I'm not sure what that's about.
Apparently, they decided we're not taking logs through barn doors. I wonder if the log carry start is only for the Pro Wave.
I would think so. I wouldn't think that they would have the regular open waivers go through this.
What they just did there, see how they both had to stop crossing that gate?
Mm-hmm.
Those are those in the South. You see this in Texas and Florida, a few others on these ranches. There's a gap there at the bottom, whether it's for drainage or a stream flows through there or what. And they have little pipes or logs that traverse that gap. And there's an inch or two gap in between each one of them. So it's a big enough gap that your heel or toe can slip and disrupt your running. So you have to break your rhythm to get across it if you're not confident that you're going to land right on the pipe where you want to be and plant off of it.
And here is our first man to get past.
There it is. Right here, he's realizing this is going to be a long day.
I think he may have realized before. but
Chris is really settled in. If settling in is is a term while you're carrying something on your back while running, but her form looks a little bit smoother than it did at the start of the carry, and she's starting to pull away from Rachel. Rachel got out, did what I really would have done too in her shoes. She got out, she separated herself from the field, but Chris may have stayed within herself more in his work in the second half of this carry.
So, and that's something that we hear all the time about not blowing up too early. And then you obviously, like you say, you maybe take it a bit different here, but where they say don't go out too fast. Don't. But I like the idea of in these races, if you want to really put on it, try to stay with them as long as you can.
Yeah, and it comes down to what's your motivation for that move. And Rachel has won races. She's podium. She's not here to try to snag something. She's here to try to go for it. And she's going boom or bust. Listen, I'm going to go out with her. I'm going to push her. I'm going to try to stay in contact. She knows she can make a podium either way, but she knows that her only chance of winning is to go and throw herself into the mix. Or there are going to be some women who are going to think, I'm going to second half load this race. I'm going to wait, stay within myself. Maybe someone will mess up. Rachel's not playing that game today.
No, we have a big battle for third. There are 3 women, Rachel Waters being one of them, all battling for third.
Mm-hmm.
And then the men just going through the muck.
And that's miserable. When you're carrying something through the muck, there's a lot of undulation underneath you. You step on stuff that you can't see. Clearly, you can't see it. It's too muddy. It's below your knees. And you rock side to side, which normally you're, windmilling your arms trying to stay at balance. But when you have to carry something, you're already thrown off balance. And you'll see a lot of people just kind of collapse to the side because suddenly you can't get your arm out and you just go right down on your side. And it slows you through there way more than it would normally.
Now, would you be as concerned about getting your hands wet now, being the description of the course where it's really not going to get technical till later and it's not like a super wet, cold day? At this point, would you worry about getting your hands wet, or would you still try to maintain the dryness?
I always worry about it. I do. I wouldn't sacrifice my ability to move through this because of it. But yeah, whenever possible, early on, I like to keep them dry as long as I can.
Well, if
it's one of those things where you go through 2 water pits. You're like, I refuse to touch. I refuse. And then suddenly you're elbow deep and you realize, oh, what's the point? I'm just charging through now.
Well, if you would just train some more obstacles, Bracken, you wouldn't have to worry about it,
That's true. You know what always makes me feel good? I watch videos of races and Ryan Atkins runs through things with his hands above his head. I'm like, all right, if that man who can dead hang for 4 hours, if he's keeping his hands dry, I have permission to do it as well.
Yeah, well, it is just smart. Just try to keep him out of there. But yeah, like I said, this
it looks like me going through there right now.
That is just slop.
Shout out to that pale bald man there going through. I support your cause.
Oh, it is a brotherhood.
It is. This carry is outrageous. So that's mile 1 they just passed. Now, we had a situation earlier in the year where the cutoff for the log was missed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's the case today, or do you think this is an intentional, really long carry?
I think this is a carry up to Lumberjack Lane. I mean, that makes sense to me. I think that they'll do that. Lumberjack Lane is your third obstacle that'll carry it all the way there and then ditch it and then move on to the rest.
What do you think of that technique of placing that log on your head that man was using?
I don't think that's wise at all.
I think a skirt was a bad choice as well.
Yeah. I mean, the sport kilts aren't bad, but definitely going to hold a little extra weight through that water.
If I had to choose a terrain to wear a kilt, it wouldn't be a swamp.
I tell you a little story. I wore a kilt for a race called Mud Hero up here in Canada. And the name is very aptly descriptive. It is truly muddy. At the end of it, we weighed the kilt and it weighed 46 pounds.
Oh my goodness. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, and then as you run, it's just flap, 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 flap. It was a mess. Luckily, I was neither very good nor cared about competitiveness at that race.
This is a course that's going to get worse throughout the day. There are some types of water-based terrain, wet or muddy courses that pack down and get a little better as the race goes on. This isn't going to be one of them.
It's still up there with the carry.
I don't care how light this log is, which it is compared to some other heavy carries in the sport, but it's still a carry. A full mile plus of anything is a long, long time to do that.
Let's just see. Okay. Caleb, are we going to be moving further down the road?
I was told they're going in the backwoods, so it's gonna be a second. We do have Verglowski right here coming out.
Perfect.
First
There we
one
go.
at the moment.
Yep. And now let's just see the gap she's got now.
Got you. Looks like Rachel is popping up.
I got more in wood, man. Come on.
So that is a substantial gap.
Yeah, we're looking at a full 30 seconds.
And then who's that behind her?
Has she already been caught now?
Who do we got behind her there?
Jamie.
Jamie.
And then Ashley after.
And I would expect you're going to see Rachel come out of there next.
So that chase pack has already caught her. So she needs to take that deep breath, realize, all right, that first strategy of racing is done.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is my new race. No matter what I feel about it, this is my new race. Get it back together and ensure that I am not done.
Yeah, now that big slugging through the mud, it could have been, she could have took it easy there, really saving her legs to try to recover almost and then kick down again when she got on some flat running.
Yeah, and there are times where when you get dropped from a person or a group up front and there's a chase pack, you can either continue doing what you're doing and wait for them to get you, or you can just say, all right, I'm going to treat this as a slight interval rest and I'm going to totally just coast until they're here and make sure that my heart rate's down and I am ready for what happens next. And maybe that's what she did. It's early enough in the race for a full reset.
And Caleb, where are they done with the logs? Where do they ditch this carry?
So right across, I know it's kind of hard to see back on my camera, on the opposite side before they enter in to the muck, there is a big loop that they go through, and then they pop it actually back to where they're kind of coming from before the muck.
Oh, okay. Again, there's Rachel Waters. Now she's still in fourth, I believe.
Fourth or fifth. I couldn't tell if another woman snuck in there or not.
And now, what do you think about this where they staggered them? They're only like 5 minutes apart for the men and the women.
For coverage purposes, I always think it's tough. But for the women, I like it.
Yeah.
They get to run the men down constantly. And so if you have someone like a Chris Verglowski in the field who's going to be just away and gone, you have people to still chase and get that energy off of. Because once you get past, there's really no more adrenaline in it if there's no one left to pass. But every time they get to hunt down and pass a man, that's a big boost and a motivator. As long as they're not caught, stuck behind them on single track. Oh,
that was interesting.
I was about to say that's super impressive, and then he crotched it. Made it through the second one, though. That looked good.
I think he actually passed somebody there.
So in an open course like this, where, clearly you have room to rub elbows and pass, I like the fact that they have a lot of people to chase.
Yeah.
Passing space is not at a premium on this course.
No, it's not like a single track. I kind of like that because I don't really like, single track is super fun to run on, but in a race and then someone gets stuck behind and almost literally logged bottlenecks like you would in traffic.
Yeah.
This one you get to see if you can pass, you pass. You don't have to wait for a certain section.
No, you don't. And when they do hit the woods, they've been carrying for over a mile already. The race is spread out. They have room to do it. So it's a good setup of the course.
How do you think, like when you talk about this carry, like how does this affect your body as you go? Like later on, and will it wear you down? Is this something that's going to affect you on, say, the yank my chain or any of the rigs? Will it wear down your shoulders?
I think it's really just going to wear down the midsection of people who don't have a super strong core. And it obviously it affects the women more than the men because they carry the same log. But realistically, it impacts your motivation more than anything. If you're someone who had some plans for this race and you're stuck carrying a log and it takes you out of your plan, then it kind of just removes your motivation and desire to get back to running. You get off something like this, and in theory, you shouldn't be totally blown out because it's not a 70, 80, 100-pound carry, but your motivation's gone just the same.
What do you think about that? Like having the same weight for men and women? I'm a big fan of that, where everybody does the same thing. It just makes the course so everybody can compare equally. I think it's a fantastic feature.
And I guess I'll take the opposite. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest.
Right.
I don't know of really many other sports in the world that require women to do the same full requirement to the men weight wise. And I think it changes the requirements of what you're testing for the competition. You're actually testing a slightly different skill set than you're testing on the men's side. So while you can compare men to women very easily, and it makes it really cool to say the women did the same weights, it tests a different type of athlete. That's my opinion on it. I don't dislike it in terms of I wouldn't promote a race or I wouldn't tell people to not do it because I think it's a cool concept. But in terms of actually testing out what's tested, I think it's asking two different asks of the athletes.
Bracken, you disagreed with me and you made a logical argument. I'm not a fan of that.
I mean, think about it. If we changed it proportionately, if we just added 20% weight to the men's, that would change who did well in the field.
Well, yeah, and I am a big fan of, well, I mean, if there's ever been a gripe for Savage, it's that a little more weight would be nice, especially for the men's.
And that's why I'm not upset about it for a Savage race. The log carry is not so drastically heavy that I don't believe it changes the female race.
No, I don't think it makes a big difference having that weight the same. I mean, this is your standard 4x4. It's not.
Yeah. But in theory, if this were to scale for all races, I wouldn't be a fan of it. So to be clear, for Savage, I don't think it impacts the race. And I think it's cool that you can compare times 1-to-1.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't use the same for the yank my chain obstacle or anything like that. Like it changes a bit there.
Yeah. I mean, imagine a high rocks if we all did the same weight.
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody like Rachel Vondrack would be okay with that.
Although I had a not good idea back in the day that everyone should have to weigh in the day before a race or on race morning. And then your judge assigned to you would then fill your bucket and your hoist and your sandbag everyone would have like 40% body weight or 80% body weight. So everyone would do the same exact percentage so that Hobie and Hunter weren't doing the same weight to carry.
It's very practical, I'm sure.
Only for like the true championship events where it's like capped at 20 people or something. But then I quickly realized that that's impossible. And it takes away a bit of what people love, which is watching a Hobie and a Hunter have to do the exact same thing next to each other.
Yeah, just recently I challenged my co-host to a pull-up challenge where I did a pull-up with 100 pounds, and I told her she had to do the same, me weighing 180 and her weighing like 110. It seemed reasonably fair to me. So she has decided that a percentage, doing the same percentage will be the same. So she's going to try to pull that off. So similar story, similar scenario. I still think she should have to pull 100.
Yeah, needless to say, I was wrong. It was a terrible idea.
It's a great idea. It just doesn't work.
No, that would get us back to the days of horse racing where you have to handicap and put weight on people in order to bring the fast people back in, and it just opens up a can of worms.
It does take, if that idea even were practical, it does take away a bit of the, let's call it like, the cornering race car versus the straight line race car, that little dynamic of what is better. And again, when you reference high rocks, the power versus the speed, it just gives it that different dynamic and allows each person of different abilities to shine on different sections of the course.
Yeah, for sure.
It looks like where are we headed out here? Let's see. So Caleb, where are we headed to?
We are waiting for them to come out of their long run and headed to Teeter Tuber is the next one.
Teeter tuber bracket.
Please tell me they're taking the log through teeter tuber.
No, unfortunately, they already dropped it all.
Okay. This log
Looks like we
theory.
got Sean
This is the
popping
last
up,
we
too.
can talk about it, I suppose. We've talked about it for a while, but that's
Okay.
my point. This is one
Hold
where
on,
the
Bracken, we
rich
got our
get richer.
First man coming through. This
First
is our
man?
first man. And that is Sean Roberts.
Yep, Sean popping up.
So what in the world happened? Because he was significantly behind Alvaro.
Well, it definitely looks like once he dropped that log, he must have took off.
We talked about his stride before, or you talked about his stride,
Yeah.
and I concur. If I could choose someone's stride in OCR today, I might just choose Sean's. I would happily run like him. And he has a bit more of that track and cross country look to his stride, where he's a 4-foot runner. He's got a little bit of bounce to his stride. A lot of times, people with that stride cannot run off terrain. They can't run on anything technical. They lose that bounce. They're unstable. They're cautious. He runs with power through everything. Again, which is why I think he's just so made for the sport, is his stride translates really well off that smooth trail onto anything, really.
And again, his stride even over, say, a VJ.
I think VJ has a technically very perfect stride, but Sean's is so pleasing to look at. Not that VJ's isn't. I'd gladly take VJ's as well.
I would take Rebecca Hammond's myself. That's
okay.
Fantastic.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Well, he's managed to conquer your nemesis.
This is where it happened. This very race is where I got stuck in teeter tuber. 200 meters from the finish line in a Savage Axe. I went in first.
Get stuck in that.
Yeah, I'd never done Savage. It was a day it was very dewy. I'm fairly certain. Now, people might say I'm just making excuses, and maybe I am, but I'm fairly certain the diameter was less back then. They had a wider teeter tuber and they had a little bit narrower, and this was a narrower. And I went into it and once my first technique didn't work, I didn't have a plan. There is no one in the world faster on transitions into and out of the water than Ken Crigliano. He has mastered hitting the water, diving face first into it, and coming out swimming fast.
Now, does he not even go down Colossus and he slides down almost sideways into a dive at the bottom?
Yeah, he transitions into a dive forward. It's so impressive to watch. So Alvaro is in third or fourth there. He had either a hiccup in the woods or burnt it a little hot at the beginning. But anyway, Dave, I got caught there. I got passed by Ken and couldn't run him down. And to this day, I've never won a Savage race. That was my best shot was my first one.
Well, you maybe should have made this race,
But it was my only time I got to finish ahead of Yuri Force at a Savage race.
And that's something to say. Not a lot of people can take credit for that.
Usually if you do that, you have an axe in your hand at the end of the day. I managed to have the best and the worst of both worlds. What is happening here?
The bucket. What have we here, Caleb?
I feel like he did not do that obstacle correctly.
He didn't, but he didn't quite understand us telling him to go back.
So he just gained like
check out
20 seconds.
Yeah, we're catching up.
They're running him down and tell him to go back. Oh.
So what would you do in this moment? He clearly didn't understand the obstacle. He now is way past it. What would you do, Dave, in terms of how would you remedy this?
Well, I think they're actually being very kind, literally running him down to tell him to go back. Because otherwise, you don't have much of a choice other than to assign some form of a time penalty or DQ him when he's not going to be aware of that until the end. So this is good. But this is just another chance to remind everybody, this is why we need lots of volunteers and pay attention and get out there and help out.
Would you stick to the rules, make them go back, or would you maybe make it on the fly? Maybe tell them you have to do this rig twice.
See, they're telling him to go back now.
Right.
Oh, that's a game changer.
And look at that. That is just, he's done. He's deflated.
He was going over instead of under.
What if I give him permission to go ahead?
Unfortunately, yeah. Already called it in.
That is some
Yeah,
That's some
that sucks.
camaraderie there, huh? What if I give him permission to go ahead? His competitor asks.
That
Yeah.
is.
That's impressive.
What a guy.
So I can guarantee you I would have been breathing a deep sigh of relief that I didn't have to battle that man anymore.
Yeah, especially with the way he was heading back. He didn't look like he was in any hurry to get back there.
Oh, no. No, it wouldn't shock me if that's the end of the day. Not just in terms of placement, in terms of racing.
Yeah, just up and done.
Oh, that's so tough. That's why if you're thinking about volunteering, volunteer.
Anyway, this is chopsticks, no? No.
This gets tough when it's slick. The wooden portions of it just I mean it's obvious to say, but are just so slick in the dew.
Yeah, they do at least have that foot notch at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Without that, we'd be in trouble.
They have an obstacle like that up here called samurai poles, and they do not have that foot notch at the bottom.
Have we seen those at OCR Worlds?
Yeah, they were a platinum rig obstacle. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I saw those at Blue Mountain. Back in the day, not this year, Blue Mountain.
Yes. Back probably 2016, 2017.
The year where for the 3K we got downpoured on.
Yeah. It's a great race venue. Still is a great race venue.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one's up there in my list of all-time great venues.
So, where are we headed now, Caleb?
Headed up towards Podium. Finn is coming on to the south end. And it looks like Sean is finishing now. Woo!
Dave, I would have loved to know when Sean took over from Alvaro.
Yeah, somewhere in that woods, it would have been interesting to see that pass.
I wonder if he closed and then they came off the carry and he just exploded, or if something did happen in those woods.
Now, Caleb, can you give us an update on who is the top three men there? A little hard to see.
Yeah, Sean is in first. Finn definitely closed in on six right now. And because of Oscar having to turn back, it looks like we have Joseph Cotto and
Joseph Cotto in third.
Do we have a Benny Gifford sighting?
I haven't seen him yet.
He's still dancing with that log.
He didn't drop the log off.
So yeah, you expected that Sean would be out there. That is a tough break for Alvaro. I mean, he gets past and then is an obstacle. Well,
yeah, I mean, it's not that different from Sean's experience at West Virginia, where he had something go wrong right about a third of the way through the race, and it just demoralized him and took him out of it. It's too bad it robbed us, but Alvaro getting dropped robbed us of seeing the two fastest guys throw down in the second half of the course.
It's just a quick look at our first rig here.
You know, it's a simple one today, but adding pipes in is not going to do anyone any favors when it's this wet.
No, but I will say, the way they've chained up the cheese boards, they're not going to have as much flex or swing to each side. If you grip from the top, it should be pretty standard. And that's a square tube. Oh no, those are monkey bar. Monkey bar is in the middle. Sorry.
Is that a Lachey though? Is that spannable by the average person's wingspan?
That looks like about a 4 foot.
It's going to be right on the edge of what people are comfortable doing with wet hands.
Caleb, is that about a 4 foot Lachey, 4 foot gap there?
Yep, 4 foot gap right here. Nice and easy. They could swing if they needed to.
So yeah, I think you're going to see definitely those swing. I mean, you might see the odd person Lachey it, but maybe more some of the shorter women who maybe aren't quite as tall might have to take a bit of a risk there.
And we have at least two in the top four. Two of the top four females are not tall.
But that's something I see. I see Chris Verglowski flying through that.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
And is there any different technique you'd use on that thing? How would you go across that?
Whenever it's wet, I go sideways and I put one hand on either side of the bar. So even if I'm swinging with two different points of contact.
Yeah.
And then I try to transition incredibly quickly to the next hand so that neither hand has to pull all the weight at one point. So if something does go wrong and you do end up slipping, you have a backup hand in there.
And I'll be honest, I do the same. I'm very much a sideways almost all the time, almost exclusively. Rarely do I find it's better to go forward. Unless you're super in need of speed.
Yeah. Yeah, and even then, I don't trust myself to go forward swinging on wet pipes. This hill is reminiscent of the year I did it. There was a crawl to the top of it and then downhill flat to the finish. So I'm having bad flashbacks here, Dave.
Yeah, all right. Looks like we got someone coming into the view there. You got to assume that's Sean.
Mm-hmm. He runs with such purpose. Although someone seems to be not totally dropped off the back here.
Well, that would be Ken.
Sean and Ken.
Let's see how he does.
Ken is just never out of the race because he smacked his forearm on the edge of that cheese too.
Yeah, he tried to do a little too much too soon.
This is the beauty of Savage, though. This is the beauty of, and I'm someone who likes standard. Look at this. Yeah, Ken just is never out of it because he gets through all of these things quickly.
Check it out.
And there we go. And he's going to come away from that, from being behind 20 seconds or 10 seconds to being ahead 20 to 30.
Yeah. And prior, he was down 30 to 40 maybe, and suddenly chipped it right back down. So every single thing he goes through.
And this is where I say that Sean has all the strength and physical tools that he needs, but isn't quite there with technique and skill.
Yeah, he has it. He just twice on this made a rushed hand placement and realized, oh, that's wetter than I thought it would be.
Take it.
And again, there's where that sideways technique would have again been very useful. A lot easier going up the rope ladder than using hand in front of one another. But a huge lead change.
It is. And it's why, again, whenever we are on here, Matt and I, or you and I, and we talk the argument of mandatory completion versus penalty loop, I generally err towards not mandatory completion, but this is an example of why it's such a good thing. Because Sean came on, he tried a really aggressive approach, realized, nope, that's not going to work today, but it didn't ruin his race. He was able to get back on and try a second approach and then get through and get back to racing.
And that's why I'm a bit of an advocate. I used to be mandatory completion guy. I used to be everything should be MOC. Everything should be bands over burpees. I now have come to the conclusion that it should be multiple attempt with a burpee out or some form of an out option.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where you can multiple attempt it, but if there's something you just cannot do, you have some penalty option.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives people freedom to take chances without the whole race riding on the line. Like, how many times did we see Aaron Newell this year run up to something, take a crazy leap, and then realize, nope, but his race wasn't over because of it. Then he could go back to his slightly less crazy approach and get right through. And I like that.
That looked like Rachel Crigliano getting past, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, and she's in third, I believe now.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have expected that. I mean, Rachel's super familiar with these obstacles.
She is, but it shows the power of wet obstacles, and especially on something like this, where once you kind of stall out, you have to generate your own momentum, and it's hard to generate momentum in a safe way on wet obstacles. It's not like you just kip backwards and then cast forward and go. You have to be careful because you can't torque your hands like that.
And that's where that switch grip, where you're one pronated, one supinated hand, really comes into play. And that's why you use it so often.
Now, what I believe we're about to see here is that Ken has gapped further. He's not getting run down by Sean. And what this highlights about Ken is that he is a closer. When he smells blood in the water, he turns into a different version of him. Or he, on paper, is rarely the fastest athlete there. But in the second half of a race, when he has a race on his hands and there's a real chance for catching someone or winning, he suddenly is the fastest runner.
Now, would that be a case of where he'd be one of those guys who outkicks his coverage, so to speak?
Absolutely. Or he suddenly finds that gear that's not like he may not be able to sustain it the whole time, but once his teeth are in it and he can smell it, he just goes into his final like ultimate form, so to speak. Like if you watch his running there on that flat stretch, that is not the way he looked in the beginning of the race. But I've had this Ken closing on me before in races, and it's worrisome because he is the guy who's going to totally empty the tank, and every stride he takes and closes or gaps feeds him more. He doesn't get a lead and then play it safe. He just attacks. And look at this gap now.
And would you think as well that it might be a case of Sean Roberts being a little deflated and gassed after taking 3 attempts on that rig?
Oh, for sure. And his attempts were aggressive attempts. You saw him come out and shake his arms as he ran away afterwards. And there's a good chance he was holding his breath going through that rig. You have to go through rigs several times before you get any semblance of efficiency through them. Like you can get through a rig or you can get through it while recovering on it. And I don't think he's to that point yet where he was breathing smoothly through it. And Ken came off ready to attack. Sean came off, and you're right. He might have been a little blown out.
Yeah, Ken did not look drained in the least from going across it. So
no, but he looks as fast now as Sean looked earlier.
And he's just flying up Colossus to no surprise.
And there is just no hope of taking time on him on obstacles.
This is Chris Verglowski. She's the first woman to Sawtooth. And I don't expect her to have any issues, although she's a little more, I'm going to call it methodical of her approach on this than I would expect.
Yeah. Yeah. She's pretty measured on this. And I think this is one of the advantages of the ultra racing she's been doing. Maybe I'm reading too far into things, but she has that other technique, which is survive in advance when needed. Clearly, she's way out in front. Clearly, the only thing that can go wrong is something actually going wrong.
Yeah, let's just see what kind of gap she has here, Jessica.
And so she is attacking everything else. And on something like Sawtooth, sure, give up a few seconds. But this gap is still not a minute like I thought, minute and a half, 2 minutes like I thought it would be.
No, it may come down to a minute depending. And is this Ashley? Is that Ashley there?
Ashley Samples here?
Depending on how long she takes to get through here. So it may end up being a minute by the time she's up and over. And then who do we have there?
Rachel.
So Rachel Waters must still be a little behind them.
So there's that sideways technique you and I were talking about.
Yeah, and I find it's just safe and efficient.
And it can be fast too.
Now, Ashley, going to the chicken wing.
These two are going to be locking horns all afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
They're like little mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
Both chicken winging to get through the transition point. Both similar stature. Seem to be evenly matched on the run and the obstacle.
And Ashley really taking a bit of a lunge there at the end. That might have taxed her, which could come into play later on in the next rig.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that chicken wing technique?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when all else fails, it requires no strength to do. Back in the day of Battle Frog, several times I would just go to chicken wing because I knew it's just bone on an obstacle. I don't have to worry about blowing anything out here. I think that there's a time and a place for it, but it's so effective when your hands are gone.
And Ken is just moving so well.
Yeah, he's coming back down to earth energy-wise. You can see he's not, lifting off the ground anymore, but his upper body's still punching forward. He's still fighting. He's hurting, but Ken's always hurting.
But his mindset, here's the second rig, so.
But
he's
look at that.
Going right to the net.
He knew his technique coming in. He took his long step, that penultimate step coming up so that he could get his lache going. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He's seen it all. He's a very cerebral racer, and he's not.
He kept his foot on that ladder all the way till he got to the ring rather than take a chance of falling off with the holy sheet hand.
Yeah, he's doing everything right, which is very hard to do when you're as tired as he is. And on an obstacle like this that has so many moving parts, to come in and make every move correct. under duress, it's a really impressive thing to do.
And now we're just going to see kind of what kind of gap he has built. And plus, I'd like to see on this rig for a while and just see what kind of carnage happens.
Dave, it's a selfish way to look at races, but whenever I watch athletes, I always like play the could I or couldn't I have when I watch them do things. And I watch Sean run on some of this terrain. I think, I don't know if I could do that. And then I watch Ken through this rig, and I know he did that better than I would have.
And now this is obviously a much different approach where Sean is being measured and thinking things through and doesn't look like he's pre-planned the route.
No, he went up thinking he was going to grab the nunchucks, went to this. But even that, I couldn't have done that in my first year of OCR.
No. And like he has the, you really said it earlier, learning on the fly. Now here I would keep my feet on and go to the tire.
Disengaging is
not
tough.
like that. I don't think that's allowed.
I don't know. I like it.
I mean, if it's allowed, it's great. But Caleb, is that a go?
Yeah, they gave approval.
Then hats off for him to do it. Not super speedy or efficient, but definitely if you need to get through. And he's through first crack, so.
Yeah. And back to running relatively fast.
Yeah, he looked a lot better coming off that than he did the previous rig.
Yeah, he continues to impress. And yet, third place is closing down here. This is a long rig, but he's closing down. He doesn't have room for a retry anymore.
No. And I think this right here, this gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Do you know who this is?
I do not.
This is Joseph.
Joseph. Now, he is suffering from a case of actually being too tall. Because he's not able to get as good a swing on that lache bar. That lache bar is low, so he really has to keep his legs tucked up under him. That's why he wasn't able to get the momentum to go lache to the cargo net.
Now, I want a ruling here. Is the rule that you just have to leave your feet off the ground, not past the bar, or do you have to touch the bar? Can you run, duck under the bar, plant your feet directly under it, and try to jump to the cargo netting?
No, you have to touch the bar.
Okay.
So here we are, Chris Verglowski, first place woman on the first rig.
She's just so smooth and strong through here.
Now look at that. She used that second bar. She went back in order to get a little backswing because she lost her momentum.
And what she has is that ability in her hands to go dead arm hang, it's more slippery because you can't put your whole hand on top. You don't put two hands on top. The only way to do that is, look at that. The guy just didn't bother with the lache, just powered through it.
Yeah, he went to the nunchuck.
But when you do the dead hang approach through it, you have to have ultimate confidence in your hands. And she does. And because of that, she doesn't have to use any back and bicep strength to get through these obstacles. She can just stay stable while hanging low.
Now, the interesting thing about this, he almost had it that time, is these guys didn't get to see Sean Roberts use his legs on that tire. Well, there we go. So that was a pass there. So who ended up into third now?
I didn't see who that was. I don't know if that was Matt Campione. The bent arm swinging robs you of all momentum.
Now, we'll go to the women here, the second place women. We have a bit of a saying when we do ninja competitions. If you're not going to make it in the first 2 to 3 swings, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So you might as well back off. And this is a great battle here. Just like you said, these two girls are going to be fighting after it.
And Rachel, just like Ken, gets to this and the gap was suddenly gone.
Look at that, just moving so smoothly through it.
And neither are panickers. Something goes wrong, they're going to get right back, reassess, and move back on.
And I think she just didn't quite commit to that semi-lache. You know, she half-hearted reached. She didn't have her full confidence in her grip. And again, grabbing the rope on the side there.
I've not seen that.
So this, to me, doesn't bode well for that next rig.
No.
You know, if she's chicken winging now.
Nor the hoist.
That is bad news.
She's got to kick that.
Here.
Oh
no. Just came up shy.
And that's a killer because she knows how hard it was to get to that point.
And this is now, she's about to get past because a little more confidence on this rope ladder, and there will be the kick.
And the difference there was that Rachel was able to lock out her arms and get full extension for her kick, where I believe that's Ashley there had to stay a little closer to a bent arm hang, and the kick came up, 4 inches short?
Yeah. And it looked like Alvaro may have just made a pass back into third because the other guys are stuck on that rig. Yep.
He's actually in fourth place, yeah.
In fourth place. So who we have? What is our placing then? We have Sean, Ken, Sean.
And then whoever that was. I said Matt Campione. I'm not even sure. I just saw him running from behind and it looked familiar, but
Start with the bar.
Benny just did the duck under and jump.
Yeah, but he didn't quite make it.
I think he did make it, and they told him he couldn't do it. Oh, look at that.
He had to touch the bar, but there you go.
Oh,
he touched it. He tapped the bar on the way under.
And there's that Benny athleticism, but he has just got himself swinging everywhere now.
Problem. Had the log on his back.
Don't say no problem.
Come on.
What's the problem?
He's still talking. Everybody else is breathing air. Come on, man. Awesome, man.
It's a facade.
Hit that bell. Hit that bell.
Now, I really like that out of Benny. He understood that the rule said you have to touch the bar, but he wanted to do that duck under and leap, and so he did both. That was a ground touch there, I think.
Yeah.
Never thought about they go running start and just tapping it bar.
That guy's feet definitely tapped the ground on the way through.
Now, do you think incidental contact, or do you think it actually helped him?
Both. He didn't intend to.
Yeah, but if it helped him, then yeah, that should be called.
It's hard to tell if it helped him. He definitely received like a rebound up off the ground, but I think that was a case of he was tall and he swung through and he hit, but I don't think he was slipping off.
Yeah. So we would call that an incidental contact for benefit.
Yeah, he benefited, but I think he was going to make it either way. This is one of those obstacles where you come up and you see, I have a plan, or I have no clue what the best way to get through this is.
How you doing, Lee? Sorry about that, Lee. Lee, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Now we got you.
Okay, I'm at the finish line. I'm going to try and capture some interviews in a moment.
All right.
That guy did that leap and tap as well.
I mean, I think you guys have said this before, where now you're seeing some of the guys who maybe don't have the foot speeds, but are really competent on the obstacles come through.
Mm-hmm.
And those those to me, those are the sharks in the water. Those are the ones that if you make a mistake, they're going to pounce. Oh, he went for it.
Yes, he did. It shows how impressive what Benny did is.
Oh, his athleticism is fantastic.
Yeah. And he got caught 2 or 3 times there swinging and hanging on one arm and still did it.
Oh, I admire this man's courage, but that one hurt.
Yikes.
Think he'll try it again?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that same get that foot up there technique.
He's got the wrestler look.
Yeah,
he's going to keep
a few bumps in his day.
Yeah, he's going to keep going for her.
So what would be your strategies for this bracket? How would you approach it?
Well, I would have done duck under it and jump, but I wouldn't have touched the pipe. That question I asked initially, I would have asked after I attempted it once, because I wouldn't have known. So I would have been forced to restart. And then I would have liked to think that I'd do the thing Benny did, because back in the day of what was it called? OCR Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple courses I did where that was the rule as well. You had to touch the first one, and that was a technique I used. But otherwise, I would have done a lâché. Oh, that's a close finish. Alvaro almost ran back down to third.
So, Lee, what's our official finisher order for the men?
First place, Ken Grigliano. Second place, Sean Roberts. Third place, he just kept on running before I could get his name. I'm going to get him back here in a moment.
All right.
Alvaro was actually making an impressive performance, but I had to send him back for Holy Roller because he did it incorrectly.
Now, what did he do on that? What did he do wrong? What was the infraction?
So the idea was to stay underneath the pipes all the way across, and he actually went over the pipes.
Oh, he went over? Did he treat it like a weaver?
So we caught him and
straight across the top.
He went right across the top.
Yeah.
In the way
yeah,
he
so
just turned and walked
we did have a sign out,
lost a
but
lot
he
of time.
missed it.
Very good.
He lost a ton of time going back as slow as he did, and he only missed third place by a handful of seconds.
Yeah, he did. He regained. If he had, think about that. If he had really hustled back, he probably would have got his podium.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah, it's too bad we couldn't stop him in the moment, but he was gone and out.
So we're just mostly waiting for Chris Verglowski to get to this rig. I'm very interested. I expect that she'll go through it quite well.
This is one where I think a lot of the women are going to be forced to have to use that nunchuck or whatever is at the beginning, because the spanning that gap is going to be too much. She'll be one that has the chance to not, but she might have the grip strength to just calmly, like no swing, just reach up, move to one, move to the next. But that lâché is going to be really, really a tough ask for these women.
Well, there she is. She is on.
Yeah, she's not even bothering. She's got the hand strength to go through, so she is.
She didn't even flinch. It wasn't even a thought.
No, and I think that's what we're going to see for the women that make it through. I think are going to have to use all those implements to get through.
And now imagine she'll keep her legs on as long as she can. And this
Which
is
has got to just
efficiency.
be. These guys have to feel gutted here, realizing she just calmly swung through, touched everything, and here I am making all these explosive movements and coming up short. When you're really great, you make difficult things look simple and easy.
And she did that. Like, that's not an easy rig. There have been tougher Savage rigs, but that's not an easy one. And she just went through it so smooth.
Well, and the reason a lot of these guys aren't using that initial skinny hanging pipe is because it's not an option.
Yeah.
You can either, you can grip onto that and it's not an issue, or there's not a chance you can hang on to that thing with one hand when it's wet. And she didn't even second guess. She just went up there, clamped her grip on, went right across. And most of these guys don't even have that option.
And back to what we were talking about applicable technique and what we would do. I would do the same thing as well as Benny, where I would leap for it rather than, with touching the bar, because mostly I don't have to worry about ducking under that bar.
Okay.
I can run as fast as I could straight under, just take off with a hand in the air. I like this obstacle. That movement reminds me very much of NORAM and the Kempson design rig.
Yeah.
And that's why I equate that would be the technique I would go for.
These guys are all making it, but their feet are tapping on the way through because it's just so difficult to grab on low like that while keeping your knees tucked up to your chest. That guy did it on the far end. Good for him.
We're still waiting for that second place woman. This is showing what kind of a lead Chris had. And there we have, is that Rachel there?
Rachel coming down the A-frame. We assume she's still ahead in second with Ashley having to redo that rig.
Yep.
I'm not sure if we even got confirmation if Ashley went through or not.
No, we just got a thumbs up from Jessica that she is in second. Yeah, Carl making a good point here. More people on the cargo makes the catch more difficult.
Good morning, Carl.
Now, what's the ruling here on grabbing above the nunchucks? Because we're seeing some people do that.
This is a discussion we just had.
And
I don't see how it's ever legal.
This came up as well in Blue Mountain as well with the ropes at the end of the Spartan rig.
Yeah. What's the point of having an obstacle if you don't use it?
100% I agree with you. I mean, why put on... I could put anything on there.
Yeah.
If you can grab above it, it doesn't matter what it is. So I think it really should be a case where you have to use that implement or skip it.
There's a major race organization that used to, way back in the day, 2011, 12, when these things came up, skirting mud pits, choosing a line, going outside the tape, they said you have to go through and follow the spirit of the obstacle, which means you look at it and say, what was this designed to do? And it's honor system to follow that.
Now, do you see what Rachel's done here? She has pulled out a set of gloves, which I believe she had specifically in mind for this obstacle, because I have not seen her put those on yet.
Yeah, I think it's smart. The only issue is if those are the gardening style gloves, those magic grip gloves, they're the only things that grip well on wet metal, but they are really loose around the wrist. And so swinging with them on, they just ride up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There would be, I don't think they'd be of a benefit. I think you pretty much will need like an Under Armour style wide receiver glove.
Yeah.
And maybe slip off the nunchuck there.
So anyways, the spirit of the obstacle. When they created this, did they want you to grab the blue nunchuck, or did they want you to look at the pretty nunchuck, reach above, and loop your fingers through the chain up there? Now, it's pretty obvious what they intended, but it's easy to argue that if it's not written down as a rule, so it just seems like, like if the tape is 6 inches to the right of rolling mud, yes. Does that mean we have permission to bypass it? Or is the spirit of the obstacle, you go through the rolling mud because why would they dig it if they didn't want you to go through it?
Now, as a racer, I agree with you 100%. You should be engaging in the spirit of the obstacle. As an organizer or a rule maker, I think that they need to have that tight where the rules are specific and the design is specific.
Yeah, and it's as simple as at the start line, which Savage does a great job of telling you what you can and can't do at the start line. But at the start line, you announce it.
We just had Chris Verglowski cross the line for the win.
Another awesome performance by Chris. Unchallenged.
And you can't say unexpected. I mean, it was just... No. So do we still have Rachel there? There she is. Okay, she's getting some off-course advice from Ken.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Lee, do you got Chris with you?
I do.
She's gonna want...
I do.
Yeah, there it is. I was saying, if she's going to want to get that thing swinging so she can reach up as high as she can.
Yeah, let's talk to Chris here.
I figured you might want to cheer your teammates on. I'll catch you after, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to catch her in just a moment here. She wants to cheer her teammates on.
All right, you just let us know.
It's the most Chris Verglowski response you could have.
She's probably already off to a volunteer at a station.
Yeah. While saving several small puppies from a burning building.
Craig asking the ladies gap between second and third, and to be honest, Craig, we don't know because the third place woman has yet to get to the rig to catch where Rachel is.
Yeah, there's a chance Ashley's still on the previous rig.
It looks like we have a couple of ladies though coming over the cargo net, and that is right before the rig, so they will be there soon.
Excellent.
And do you recognize who we got there?
I do not.
Okay, now here's something interesting. How do you feel about this? That was Ken Crigliano just jumping on and giving a bit of a demo as to how that should be done.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, Savage is the people's race, right?
Yeah.
They're the people's champs. I like the sense of community, and why not? Everyone's going to be stuck here. It only helps the race course to get people through. It only helps the race to have people have success out here. So If
No.
this were if there were cash on the line for these guys, I'd say let's not do that. But in terms of, the spirit of the race, to overuse the term spirit, I like it.
And there we have our third place woman. Right behind Rachel, but looking for somewhere to go. And this is the thing, like it is log jam there. And a lot of these guys need to step aside and let these women contending for the podium have their chance.
This is one of those where if I come up to this and there's a log jam, it would be almost arrogant of me to just jump on and go.
Yeah.
I'd realize I'm probably in trouble here. Let's watch what's not working. And then, I might only have 1 or 2 good attempts at this. So let's make sure they count.
Okay, but let's say you're one of these women who have come in behind Rachel, and you've seen, obviously, you've made up a huge gap. Rachel's struggling. In that case, and you're fighting for second place, do you not just go?
I mean, I'd be wired to go.
I think I would. I think I would just be like, I would bully my way through, I believe.
I like what Styles is doing here, though. She's if I'm saying that correctly, she's watching and seeing. There's a reason they're stuck here. I can either make the same mistakes or I could just charge up, and it'd be really hard not to just charge up and go. But I think if she gets through, it's because she's not rushing it.
We've mentioned many times today, shark in the water. And this is a scenario here where someone like Rachel Waters, who probably isn't too far behind these girls, could come in and make this obstacle.
That girl on the far end there, I think she's going to get it.
There's Rachel Waters popping, but you're right. She made that. She just touched with her feet.
Yeah, she didn't fully commit to like that. If I miss it, I'm okay falling. She didn't fully commit, but her next one, she will.
Here's Rachel Waters.
She looks relatively good swinging, even after spending
she had a
long time on that last obstacle. Unless Rachel might not have spent a lot of time on the last obstacle. Actually,
she's now caught up to these women who are maybe a little better on the foot speed.
I think both these women will make their next Lachey attempt.
Oh, still a little high. I think you're right. And who is that in the red? You said that was.
It looked like Styles on the back of her jersey, but I do not know.
It's Styles. Yeah.
Jamie is in the red.
Jamie Styles.
Thanks, Justin. How are they?
Warnopolis.
Well, then I don't know what the back of her jersey says. Rachel doesn't have a care in the world. She's chatting while slowly swinging.
And look at that. She just used her power.
Yep. Get your hands dry.
And look at her asking, can I go around or do I have to go under?
Yeah.
She's checking all the boxes here.
Awareness on the obstacle like that is just not super common. But it's why exactly that you predicted that she would do this at the start of the show.
Well, I have a lot of faith in her. I am surprised she's taken her legs off that cargo net already.
Yeah, she'll be back.
Yeah, there it is. And look, she's also so now this is a dogfight here. You got the 2 women who have made the Lachey.
Oh.
Ooh.
I think she kicked her off. That's not serious. Just in case we incite something.
Around now. Okay with it. Go back to yourself.
Oh, come on now.
Can they hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
They should be able to hear you.
Hi.
Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
I am good.
If you don't mind, can you head over to
Over here.
Congratulations. That was an awesome race.
Thank you. Good.
Now, we noticed you were super smooth on the rigs. How did they feel to you?
Super smooth on the what part? The whole thing? Or what? Oh, on the rigs. Oh, they felt great.
Now there's carnage at the rigs right now. You had no issues. Why were you able to move so smoothly through those where everyone else is stuck?
I don't know. It's very wet out there. That's why everybody else is having a hard time. I rub my hands in dirt a lot. There's no camera. Just audio. Okay. I rub my hands in the dirt a lot to try to dry my hands off and to get I think it's at least a little bit of a placebo effect. Like makes it feel like my hands can hold on for a little bit longer. But it's very wet. I can't see anything. Yeah.
There we are. We can see you, Chris. Well, we could for a minute. We're gonna talk to you, but we're gonna keep the camera on the women on the rig here.
Okay. It's very wet out here. We're going in and out of water, and all the rigs are wet as well. Like, it's probably the most wet Savage race I've run in a long time.
And is that just from like the dewy weather from the mist in the morning? Oh, we lost her again. Bit of a rough signal there.
We have Rachel, Corigliano, and Jamie. Same spot.
So, Chris, right now you've got 3 women all on that cargo net racing for second place.
Yeah, Jamie.
Have they been there? There, it looks like Jamie's got it.
Yeah, she's made many attempts. So now, how would you do this?
So
I think from this point you should hang out and then you keep her feet on the ladder until she gets a hold of that rope.
Yes, but it's only like 2 grips to the swing. So a double grip on the sheet and a double grip on the rein, and you can swing right into the bell.
It looks like Rachel Waters is right behind her. There she is. She's
There we
hit
go.
the bell.
Jimmy got it.
Yep.
All the obstacles are dewy, and then it's also just going in and out of water a lot. And I don't know if I might have dropped out when I was saying it's like some of the low water crossings, but like up to my chest, where you go in and it's like, oh, we are all the way in the water here. And then the sun really just hasn't come out yet, so everything's still wet.
How was that long carry to start out?
That was a long carry. It's just a very awkward thing to carry. Like a sandbag would have been a totally different thing. Is that Brittany?
Rachel Waters.
That's Rachel Waters.
She took 3 swings to kick that bell.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
It is a surprise. It's a surprisingly high bell at the end.
So let's see. We'll go.
She's about 30 seconds down from second place now.
There's only like 3 obstacles after that.
And nothing really that would really hold you up, is there?
No. Well, yeah, I don't think any of these races had a problem with my chain. That's like the second to last one.
So it looked like it was strange. All the women were backlogged on that rig.
Is that Rachel? Someone just got through, it looked like.
Oh, I lost sight of her on the camera. I think it was Rachel. We'll see if they... Oh, they're booking back. Then it's the scorn hole.
Yep. Scorn hole, and then yank my chain, and then the very last one is that pedal to the metal.
So, Chris, you're not out volunteering on an obstacle yet. Are we holding you up?
A little bit. That's the next. Well, we like to do the kids race.
Oh,
the kids race is a little bit.
Chris, you've had a crazy schedule of racing this year. Is this it, or are you going to continue all the way through to the end?
I'm doing. I have a few more. The year's not over yet, so racing isn't over yet.
What do you have coming up on your schedule?
I am doing High Rocks next weekend, and then Spartan we might be going out to Abu Dhabi, but I don't have tickets in hand, so I'm not super set on Abu Dhabi. But I'll go out there if they're going to take me out there.
Looks like Jamie just got through yank my chain. Sorry.
No, they're good. Yeah, and then I always finish here with 100 mile every years. So
Abu Dhabi, that would be very interesting to see you run out there.
I would love to go out there, but I am not going out there on my own dime. So we'll see.
Okay.
Got Jamie and Rachel.
Yeah, I think that Jamie has enough of a lead there that she's probably going to be okay to cruise across.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, you called it at the beginning.
She's coming into.
That they were going to have people come in out of nowhere in the second half of the race. As soon as someone left the door open, that they'd charge through, and they did.
And it seems that's the way of Savage, right? Like you're going to get someone who has a performance like Chris did, where she's just smooth and steady through the whole thing. And then there'll be opportunities for those who maybe aren't quite as fast of runners to get in there and steal a podium spot.
Yeah. She had a little bit
The
of
first half
trouble
of the race.
with this wheel.
The first half of the race was so close. Like all of us were running together for the first almost like 3 miles even.
You know, Rachel really seemed she was pushing you at the start. She was really trying to hang with you.
Yeah, and she actually passed me up right at 3 miles, right before we came into Teeter Tuber. She passed me and we went into Teeter Tuber together. But then I came out of it first, so I don't know where she ended up. Here comes Jamie.
She's coming across the line. There she is.
Let's
She's
go,
doing well
Jamie.
today. And Rachel will be not too far behind. She made up some time on that wheel.
Yeah, Rachel, very strong. What a great finish. That's good. They really came through. And that rig, again, came into play massively.
I think they have.
Chris, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And there's Rachel across the line for your third place finish.
Hey guys.
Hey, Lee, so why don't you run down the podium, the official podium?
Okay. First place, Chris Verglowski. Second place, Jamie Horiopoulos. Third place, Rachel Waters.
And for the men again?
So for the men, we've got Air Force Ken in first place. I'm gonna confirm second and third now. Give me one moment.
I believe it was Sean Roberts, wasn't it, in second? Isn't that who we had, Bracken? Sean Roberts?
Yes.
And the third was, I'm not sure who the third place man was. So what did you think, Bracken? Did that play out as you expected?
Yes and no. Female side exactly as I expected, except Rachel had more trouble than I thought. I thought Rachel was going to be on that podium. But on the men's side, I thought we'd see a longer battle with Alvaro and Sean. And obstacle course racing did what obstacle course racing does, is it threw a lot of curveballs out there today, and some people handle them better than others.
Well, we got another
Hey guys, I've got confirmation. On second and third. Second place was Sean Roberts. Third place was Daniel Martin.
Daniel Martin. And would that be his first Savage podium, do you know?
As far as I'm aware of at this point, yes.
Oh, that's great to see. I love that.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
There's nothing like that first time podium.
Well, here's Matt checking in from Laughlin. Matt, you're an hour and a half late, just as always, but everything went well. We had a fantastic race.
He's got a
you wanna chat a
long
little
day
bit?
ahead of him.
Yeah, he does.
Do you want to chat with ORM?
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys,
What do you got?
I've got Jamie here, second place female. Come on over.
Yeah. All right, we can't see her, so you'll have to.
There you go.
Thanks. Hello.
Hi, Jamie. We can't see you too well, but we can hear you just fine. It's Dave and Bracken here. Congratulations on a great race.
Is that better? Thank you. Thank you so much. That's tough.
How did you feel about that last rig?
Are you guys there?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, it was tricky. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a delay. The rig was pretty tricky, but I loved it. Everybody was like, oh, the nunchuck is so slippery. It's so slippery. So we were all basically trying to lâcher the beginning. But then when I tried the nunchuck, it wasn't that slippery for me. So it worked out pretty well. But right after the cargo net, there's a ring that goes from longer to shorter. Like
the two are connected, and so the change in height was tricky and made me fall, but it was good.
Now you capitalized when you needed to. Where were you sitting? How was your race going up until those two rigs kind of blew the field apart?
So very, very beginning, I think I was third, and then I ended up settling into fourth or fifth. And then when I got to battering bird, I was having issues with the ropes. They kept wrapping around my arms as I was trying to transition. So I ended up having to redo that a few times. And at that point, I think I fell back to maybe, I'm not even sure. I did fall back a couple of spaces, and I was able to catch up at the rig.
And what was going through your head when there was probably 4 women, you were all together at that rig there? What was your mindset? Was it just like, if I can just push through this?
Basically, just hoping that I could, get a chance to at least get to that cargo. I knew that if I was able to really get past that, I'd be able to do it okay. But of course, when I first tried that transition from the cargo to the rings that changed in the height, tripped me up a little bit. But I have a pretty long reach, so I felt like once I got past that very first part that I'd be okay. So I always tell myself the race isn't over until I cross the finish line. So you just can't let anything get to you in the meantime. So, but definitely there's a spark of hope when you see a bunch of ladies trying over and over.
Were you able to stick to that mindset, or after you had some trouble with your transitions early, were you starting to think that maybe it wasn't the day?
No, once I felt that, and I felt that it wasn't as slippery as it seemed to be. Like, I knew that my grip was good on that, and I felt like my grip would be fine throughout. Honestly, the part that I was starting to question myself the most was back at battering bird when, my arms are getting pumped out and having a really hard time maintaining my grip. So that's when I started to wonder, how things would play out, because I got passed a couple times there. But once I got through it, I just had to tell myself to keep pushing, and it wasn't over until I crossed that line.
Awesome. Well, you had put in a great race. It was fantastic watching, very entertaining, and you just killed it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I had a lot of fun. Good talking to you guys.
You too.
Thanks. Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lee.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
How do you guys feel about this?
Good. We got good sound from you, but not video. So we'll just put on the other video there. But great race, Lee. How do you think it went?
Well, everybody stayed on course. Everybody had a good time. It looked like they were pushing real hard, and I found that there was a few different instances where people were surprised by things, and I always kind of like to keep them off balance when I can. I say overall it's a smashing success.
Yeah, I thought it was a really competitive race and really great to see. I enjoyed it. I think you did a great course layout, and I can't wait to see the next Savage race, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Bracken, shall we wind this out?
I think so. This course never really fails to disappoint. I said it earlier, but I'll stand by it. Of the Florida courses, this is one of the more diverse venues, and they found a new way to run it this year that, again, changed the way that this entire race played out.
Yeah, and like we said in the beginning, I said it through the whole thing many times, sharks in the water. And it always, that's what Savage seems to provide better than any other race, is a chance for some surprise finishes. And although you wouldn't call it a surprise, it's just a chance, like I said, for those obstacle specialists to compensate for maybe a little bit of lack of foot speed. And that's what makes it super enjoyable for me.
Yeah, Savage embodies the mindset of it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Oh,
because
nice.
the people who were leading at different points of the race did not finish out on top. You heard that Rachel made a pass on Chris, and Sean was 20 seconds down at one point, and people that were on the podium were in 5th place at one point. So it's how you finish these courses off that truly matters.
Yeah, and I did notice today, like I thought that the rigs were well designed today, where it wasn't inhuman. It wasn't quite that car wreck. There was a little bit of carnage for a while, but really, it didn't have that 2-hour delay of are we going to get a finishers? And I thought that was a good design. I thought it was laid out well.
Yeah, they had the ability to find a technique and then do it. It wasn't just an impossible task. It was you need to know how to do it, but once you know that, it's very doable. And I like that. It's a good mix.
Well, Bracken, I'm inspired. I'm going to go out and put in a killer workout today. I don't know about you.
Tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
Got a big one tomorrow. Easy one today.
All right. So to everybody that tuned in, thank you very much. And we'll catch you on the next Savage.
See you tomorrow morning, I believe. Savage Blitz.
Oh, yes. Tomorrow morning, Savage Blitz. I won't be there, so I put that one. But Bracken, you will be killing everyone with your velvety smooth voice.
Keep it coming, Dave. Keep it coming.
Take care, all.